Gather round, ghouls, fools, and other known freaks for the re-redesign of Toralei Stripe. Spooky month has passed, and Generation 3 of Monster High has been around for a few months now. So after some careful consideration, I have decided I do not like some of the redesigns. I don't know if I'll have the energy to redesign all of the ones I don't like. I might just do my top 3 and redesign those ones, but I figured I'd redesign Toralei first, as they did her so dirty. I want to start off by talking about my process. As you can see, I started off recording this in the middle of my sketching process. For everything that I recorded, when I compiled it together, it ended up being over 3.5 hours long. If I had recorded the first half of my sketching process, it easily could have been over 6. And that's being generous. To be completely honest, 90% of my time spent on art comes from looking up references and sketching. Sketching is my least favorite part because I have to draw the full body and then I draw the clothes so that way I know where the folds will go. Even though I'm still kind of shit at drawing folds, I'm still so bad at folds. You can see where I'm struggling and how I ended up not going with the shirt. Mainly because I realized I had a different one in mind. I just want my art to be finished, no draw, only finished art. The diverse body types that the redesigns have are amazing, so I'm attempting to replicate that in this redesign. I don't normally draw characters who have a thigh gap, but I do think that if Toralei grew up on the streets, it's likely she was malnourished. To be completely honest, Monster High is a big inspiration for my art style in general. Most of my character art has short thighs and long calves because I think it looks really cute. Here are some of my gripes about Toralei's redesign. Firstly, she is now one of the many dolls that have long hair. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just uniform, which is odd considering these dolls are supposed to be monsters that represent breaking the norm. It makes every ghoul, plus one non-binary character, have a similar silhouette, because only guys can have short hair apparently. Speaking of, I struggled when deciding on what hair I wanted to give her, because for whatever reason, in the promotional material of the new animated TV show, she has this messy bob, which I think is great and it's really cute, but her mainline doll doesn't, and that's really weird. So I thought to myself, she deserves short hair. I really liked the idea of giving her a mullet, and on top of that, I really liked the idea of giving her these tiny pigtails, which someone had suggested to me. Thank you, whoever that was. My apologies, I don't remember. In the end, I settled on a short, messy, almost asymmetrical pixie cut. That's the best way I can describe it. Harkening back to my drawing process, I think I spent a good third of my time sketching just the right foot, like our left, her right. I could not get it to look good for the life of me, and that's part of why I didn't record the first half of the sketch, because between that foot, the bent arm, and that hand, which like in 3 months I'm going to cringe at, took up the majority of my sketching time. I don't need y'all to see how embarrassing my first several passes of sketching are. I literally start with stick figures. I had a pose reference into everything. Here's a self-taught artist tip. Always have a reference. You don't have to follow it to the T, but it's handy to look at when you need to know how something works. Hot take? Maybe. It is okay to trace or draw over said reference if you don't understand how something works. I always eyeball my references until I come up to a hard place where I trace it and then freehand what I traced. Maybe I should start looking up fold references. Gather round, youngins. I remember when Monster High first came out. I know I'm ancient. Back in 2009 or 2010, I remember immediately falling in love with the commercial, and it was just such a funny commercial. The characters looked amazing, the voice acting was on fleek, I guess. I realized halfway through drawing Toralei's outfit that it looked way too clean, so here I am, taking my time looking up a reference to a different drawing where I did something similar. I really should have added more cuts and rips to the fabric. I gave her back a little cat handkerchief because I thought it was really cute. My mom had these like living dead dolls, so when Monster High came out, it was like my version of her dolls. I grew up in a very gothic and horror-loving household. While I deeply appreciate the horror genre and enjoy what it does, and how it's got a lot of history and queer representation due to the Hays Code, I'm one of those people who, since I grew up watching horror movies or like around horror movies, I don't like watching them now. It's like that weird phenomenon where people who grew up with parents that wouldn't let them watch horror love the genre, but people who did watch it growing up, don't like it as much as an adult. For the outfit, I decided on this aesthetic grunge look, which I believe is an oxymoron because grunge is supposed to not be super clean. It's this rough and tumble look that's not supposed to look good. It's a big fuck you to fast fashion is truly what it boils down to, which is why I think there's pure irony of these countercultures being commodified, and I think it's kind of funny and very upsetting at the same time. Regardless, I think she would fit this aesthetic grunge look because in Generation 1, she was a street cat, so she's mean to others to protect herself. I can understand why they changed her backstory. Maybe they thought it was too stereotypical for a werecat to have a hard-knock life on the streets. But making her rich and still mean is not where it's at. It's almost tone deaf. I'm realizing very quickly I kind of relate to Generation 1 Toralei way too much. I believe the point that I'm trying to make is the aesthetic part of the inspiration is what I think makes the outfit look like it could be a fashion doll outfit, as fast fashion is clean looking, whereas grunge is not. So as I was writing this script, I looked up the Gen 1 Toralei doll and completely forgot about giving her earrings or literally any physical flair. So if you want to redesign my Toralei, please give her some fun earrings or a tear in the ear or like makeup or something. I feel super bad for the artists who redesigned these dolls though. I'm certain Mattel was breathing down their necks the whole time telling them what the kids really wanted, when in reality I think they should have been listening to the adults who wanted the dolls. I know I'm very nostalgic and opinionated, and I feel terrible for whoever had to do the redesigns because they're good designs, they're just not accurate to the characters, which is what I think a lot of doll collectors and adults don't like. Another gripe I have, mainly with Mattel more than Toralei's redesign, is how the newest generation doesn't look as good as the original, and I think that's because they took the monster out of Monster High and the freaky out of Freaky Fabulous. They don't look like monsters, they look like corporate commodified sporty dolls who happen to be based on monsters. Much like Gen 2, the third generation plays heavily into that cutesy, sporty girly type. At least the second generation kept the monster aspect, they just softened the goth punk emo style. While I do understand that it's no longer the era of emo punk, hot topic, whatever that it was when Monster High originally came out, but I think they failed to look at common culture, e-girls and e-boys are a thing. I guess less so now in the year of our Lord 2022, but I really wish that they had played into that at least a little bit. Going back to the drawing process, unpopular opinion amongst my artist friends, but I love the line art process the most. Sketching takes way too long for me to properly enjoy, and I don't mind doing the flat colors, but shading and adding depth is the hardest part of my art process because much like folds, I still don't understand it fully. I like the unification of my sketch. Some parts of my sketch are way too thick, other parts a bit more messy, but with line art, all comes together. Self-taught artist tip number 2, I guess. When lining your art, stick to the middle of the sketch lines. As long as you trace the center part of your sketch, it won't appear super wobbly. On to gripe number 3. I do not believe Toralei is a prep. In this reboot, she's supposed to be rich and popular, and her main trait is being anti-human, which, in my sincere opinion, is a really dumb place to take her character, because now she's just mean, rich, popular ghoul number 2. The only difference is I assume Cleo is going to get some sort of character arc. With the ever-rampant multiverse content, some really fucking good, and others meh. Mattel implying that Generation 3 is a different universe is a bit cheap in my opinion. I swear I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, as I really do hate that, mentality online. I do like a lot of the ideas and their executions. As I've mentioned before, I love the different body types. I love that they are now articulated at the mid-torso. I just don't like how it's sporty, preppy, ghoul high, and they also happen to be monsters. Don't get me wrong, I am elated that Monster High is back. I'm so happy that I will now get to buy dolls with my adult money. I've been missing looking for these dolls in Walmart for so long, even though they haven't appeared in my local Walmart yet. At the same time, I cannot ignore how nostalgic I am for the original ghouls. Now that we're nearing the end, I do want to mention, I believe there are others who are also doing redesigns, and I'll link both of their redesigns in the description. I don't know if they're going to redesign all of the main ghouls, or if they're only going to redesign a few. I just know I don't plan to redesign every single one, like Draculaura. Her design is super cute. The only things I might change with her would be I'd give her back her pigtails and maybe change the whole sorcerer thing. Considering in Generation 1 canon, there is literally a character who is a witch, and her name is Castafierce. Because witches are a type of monster, I guess. I do find the idea that magic is a human thing to be quite interesting. I also think that it's really funny considering my mom is also a witch. Another positive thing to mention is I love the purple that they added to Toralei's design. I think it breaks up the analogous color scheme that she originally had, as well as adding a cool color to the majority warm color palette as an accent color really adds something memorable to the design. I also adore the white boots she has. I will say, I am mad that all the ghouls and the one non-binary character have high heel feet sculpts. Like, all of the flat foot shoes are just sculpted to look that way. I'm especially mad that Frankie, a non-binary icon, canonically non-binary, has high-heeled feet, because to me it implies that Mattel doesn't see them as a non-binary person, but as like a spicy feminine one. Yes, NBs can wear heels. In fact, I, someone who presents masculine, wear heels, but they didn't give any of the guy dolls heels to wear. Besides, Mattel has made Barbie dolls that have flat feet. Maybe Bratz dolls had the right idea for just removing the entire foot. Problem solved. I'm going to admit, I don't think my redesign is the best. I don't feel like this should replace what is already there. As I've said before, I feel like I could have added more, or maybe I could have done less. Maybe I should have added more spikes or leaned on softer features. As I've mentioned multiple times, I do not like the sporty ghoul look they're going for, especially with Laguna. Maybe keep an eye out, as I just might redesign her next, and I'll save my rant about how I feel about her for that video. No promises, I'll make more than one, as I am currently a college student. I will say, as someone who has younger family members who are in the age demographic that Mattel is aiming for, I think they're right. I think the younger generation does like the sporty style more. However, they're wrong. Cutting in, here's something fun. I don't know what happened, but as I was lining the fishnets, I lined the bit that shows above the waist, yet somehow I ended up deleting it on accident. You can see me as I get confused. Like, I swear to God, I just did this like 2 songs ago. The fuck? I don't know what happened, but it disappeared. Oh, side note, giving fishnets to a werecat character, in my opinion, is peak character design, as it's such a good think piece. It's a bit of a shame to what Monster High originally meant, and how empowering it was to people like me who were different. As many people have discussed, the horror genre is very queer due to the effects of the Hays Code, so making a brand off of the monsters of old-timey horror and then spitting on that by making them not so freaky fabulous is just sad. Going back one last time to my drawing process, I want to mention this is not how I normally color characters. Since I decided to go with Toralei's original tabby cat look, I kind of just said, fuck it, I'm not gonna color this the way I normally do. I had intended to do some experimenting with the shading, but I couldn't figure it out off camera, so I didn't bother in the end. I had a really hard time figuring out how to shade this, or if I was even going to shade this. I recorded these in sections because I was not going to sit down for 6 hours to record the entire thing in one go. Eventually, I decided I would use dark blue since it's a cool color, and it would add a nice offset to the majority warm color palette. Set the new layers blending mode to multiply and lowered its opacity. Well, ghouls, fools, and other known freaks, here we are. It's Toralei stripe all done. Overall, I really like what I came up with, so maybe if y'all want to see part 2, let me know.